I don't know if you guys have heard about this new thing that's been going on called the cattle mutilations.
He came up off the ground, then he split in two. What got me with it, the same size after they split. Wow. One ball just went flying north. He just took off and he was gone in just a few seconds.
All these mutilations have a number of things in common. The complete draining of the animal's blood. The removal of its eyes, ears, lips, and tongue.
They had horses and sheep. There were cases reported in Australia in the 50s. There's been approximately 2,500, 3,000 cases in South America since 2000.
Why is there no blood? How come body parts aren't strung around?
Which apparently seems like aliens are abducting all of these cattle and cows from farms and ranches across the United States. And basically what happens is that they suck all of the blood out of this cattle, including all of the organs like ears and eyeballs and brains, and sometimes even the reproductive systems have been removed from these cattle in a very mysterious and surgical way. And from the past 3 months, we've been seeing a lot of UFOs flying around, and over 300 different farms and ranches in the United States have been calling over to the local police station and have reported the same kind of incident all over the United States. And it's literally the same, where it seems like these were some of the situations that kind of happened all the way back in 1970s, whereas there was this unexplained case called Cattle Mutilation, where it seems like UFOs come in and they seem to be abducting these cattle from their farms, and this usually happens at the nighttime, and the aliens come back and put the cattle back in the same location where they picked it up from. And upon checking the bodies of these cattle, it seems like they have absolutely no blood left in their bodies. Like, just imagine 100% of your blood is being fully sucked out of your body, including some of the organs like eyes and brains, and even reproductive systems have also been removed from this body. And these things have been done with precise surgical procedures. It's not some sort of a coyotes that's attacking, or even bears or any kind of animals out there. And we even got one of these documentaries on YouTube, which is done by National Geography. So let's just take a look at this stuff.
Cows has died. On a cattle ranch, that's not unusual.
First, I thought it would just die naturally. And then I got closer to it and I could see it wasn't natural.
Look at that stuff. Like, for every single cases that we've seen so far, it just seems like, the one part of their face, they kind of just rip out the skin only from one side of their body. And then they have like some sort of a hole that's drilled on the upper part of their jaw. And the hole just goes all the way deep into their brains and eyeballs. And it basically looks like the eyeballs and brains have been sucked through some sort of a tube. And not only that, everything, including 100% of the blood, is completely drained. There's not even one single blood cell that's been left in this cattle. And that's not something any sort of animals would definitely do. It definitely looks like it's either humans or might be some sort of a extraterrestrial being, like probably an alien or something.
Were gone. The sex organs were cut out.
Look at that stuff.
Weird.
He notifies the local sheriff, who comes out to take a look. But there's nothing he can do.
Oh my God. That's gruesome, honestly. Like, every single cases that they found, it looks exactly the same, and all of blood has been drained out. It seems like there's absolutely no sign of struggle or whatsoever. They haven't even slaughtered it. They haven't cut the throat or slaughtered nothing. Literally, it's basically dead because all of the blood has been sucked out and some of the organs are missing. I don't think there is any animal out there that could ever do this. And the worst part of all...
The case is shelved, but it remains a disturbing mystery.
I guess no blood. How come body parts aren't strung around?
In 50 years of farming, Tom has never seen anything like this.
And the ranch owners also describe, most of them have noticed that some sort of a UFO or an orb-like thing that's glowing in orange color, it kind of just appears in the sky right about all of these cattle. It seems like they just split into, it's pretty much the same as what we've been seeing going on in the sky as of now. There are so many different drones, and some people are even filming something that looks like these orbs, and these things have been coming down. And the same stuff happened in 1970s, and the whole case was a mystery. It was not solved. I think there were people who even gave like bounties in order to like give some sort of an evidence or, eyewitness of whatever is going on, and there was literally nobody that knew what was even happening. Even the law enforcement, they used everything they could, but it was just unsolved mystery. And now, finally, in 2024, we're once again seeing all of these things, like the UFOs, the similar kind of stuff that's appearing once again in the sky, and all of these cases have once again risen, and we've got hundreds of cases and hundreds of police calls that's currently coming up regarding the cattle going missing. So this definitely means that there is something crazy that's going on out there, and I really want you guys to take a look at what this ranch owner has to say here about what he actually got to see and what kind of aliens that he witnessed with his own eyes before whatever happened to his cattle.
A bright orange light came up, about the steers mutilated. And then 15, 20 minutes later, a bright orange light came up, about the size of a beach ball. He came up off the ground, then he split in two. What got me with it, the same size after they split. Wow. The one ball just went flying north. He just took off and he was gone in just a few seconds.
Did it make any type of sound?
Not even a humming sound. And I still think to this day, and it'll take a lot to convince me otherwise, it wasn't from this planet.
Whatever the cause, the mystery of livestock mutilation.
It was not even from this planet, he says. Damn, dude. Now, this whole case basically happened in 1970s, and there was a lot of investigation that basically happened. And now it seems like all of these cases are coming back once again. After we've been seeing all of these UFOs flying around in the sky, and a lot of people have been capturing some of the footages. Back in those days, we did not have good equipment in terms of cameras and all that stuff. But now we can simply just zoom in and try to see whatever is out there in the sky. So it seems like the cases are once again starting up. Unsolved mysteries continues in the United States as dead cattle are being found stripped of organs. The FBI briefly investigated cattle mutilation between 1974 and 1978, but reached no conclusion. Now, the stuff has been going on much more, because on December 28, 2024, we actually got a huge spike in all of these cases, which seems to have been happening in Oregon, United States. Cattle mutilation has been reported, and authorities in Oregon are investigating a curious case of slain bull that bears the hallmark of classic cattle mutilation event. The unnerving killing, which occurs in late November at a ranch in States Grand County, came to light last week when the animal's owner spoke to locals media outlet about the weird incident. Choosing to remain anonymous, he indicated that the slaying featured several strange elements that appear to defy explanation but will sound all too familiar to students that have already been studying cattle mutilation phenomenon. Now, I think there's already been like hundreds of reports, especially from the Oregon region. It seems like, all of their cattle are going missing, and before it goes missing, people have been stating that they ended up seeing some sort of an UFO that just kept flying across their, farmlands, and these UFOs have been flying across their ranch for like a couple of months now. Probably, aliens might be scoping out to see what kind of loots they're going to find it there. So the farmers have been reporting that, crazy stuff is taking place. And New York Post has also covered this whole new latest updates of whatever is going on. And some of the people are saying that it could be some sort of a satanic cult who worship the devil that are doing some sort of, demonic activities out there in all of the ranch in the United States. And some people say that this could involve some sort of an extraterrestrial beings, part of being aliens, or maybe, the government is testing out some sort of secret weapons that they don't really want us to know about. We never really know what's going on, but just take a look at what this whole, interview has to say.
Satanists.
Well, again, it is the idea of sacrifice, the killing of a living thing. And this would be done to honor Satan and maybe to show your devotion to Satan. Satan is the embodiment of evil, therefore how can I mirror that in a ritual and worship him at the same time by killing something? But
you see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, some people, they still worship Satan. I mean, most of the Hollywood industry and most of the people that are famous, they always get to the highest position because they worship the devil. They sell their soul to the devil. And that's basically how, the Hollywood is portrayed. Not just Hollywood. I mean, generally, most of the people that are in power, there is always this one guy who's above all of them, and he is responsible in order to, basically run all of the stuff around the world, including the medias and the government, and all the people that are in power has to listen to him. But nobody wants to reveal who this person is. And obviously we know it could be the devil, the Satan himself. And the Bible already warns us about all this stuff, that there is a guy who is the son of Satan, and he's going to be known as the Antichrist, who will be rising in power and will show himself in public before all people in all world, and he will claim the throne as one leader. And the Bible also states that there is going to be something called as the New World. And apparently it's like a new earth. And there will be a new government where all the governments are combined together as one. And there will just be one true leader. And that one leader is going to be Antichrist himself. And all of this stuff is set to be happening before the second coming of Christ. And obviously the people who are going to be left over, that are going to be alive during this time period, are going to have to survive until, the second coming of Christ happens. Now, of course, some people think that all of this stuff is conspiracy theories. And some people actually believe that these things are true. Now, of course, these subjects are, of course, in your own opinions. I don't know if you guys are going to believe it or not. But man, things that are happening around the world, we need to definitely look at some things and take into consideration. And at this point, it just seems like it could either be aliens or government hiding something, or this could be some sort of, satanic activities, the cultists that are actually trying to awaken something, or like open portals, or you never know, man, some crazy stuff goes on in the United States. And one of the biggest questions that kind of, concerns me is that why is all of this stuff only happening in the United States of America? Why is it not happening in any other part of the world? I mean, that's one of the bizarre questions. Maybe, they're just crazy people living in America, or maybe the government is trying to fool us people and try to, make us believe that there are some extraterrestrial beings that are just involved in all of these cases, whereas they could be doing some illegal researches using all of these animals and stuff. You never know. They could be making some sort of a biowar weapons and crazy stuff like that. So let's just go ahead and see what this dude has to say.
Also the idea of a blood ritual, cutting, blood, taking out genital areas, the idea that there's a sexual aspect to some of this. And so those are some of the signs. And there's no denying that when you look at animal mutilations more generally, it is one of the theories that's still out there.
Look at this. This was like the news that was posted in like 1975. Back in this time, there was this woman who was like the local, press journalist. And she apparently did a lot of research and, tried to figure out the best solution for what's going on back in those times. And she came out with this headlines, which apparently went viral. And this thing was like on the headlines for like 3 years straight up, like literally 3 years straight up. It says devil worship satanic cult blamed in cattle mutilations. And some people like to call the devil or the demons as aliens, maybe. You never know. And apparently what's serious about this whole cattle missing situation is that even if their bodies are like found on the ground, it seems like no parasites are even coming close to the bodies of these mutilated cows. Like all of this just seems impossible, because anytime any sort of animal just dies and the carcass has fallen in there for weeks, you'll obviously see that there are going to be these carnivorous animals like coyotes, mountain lions, or wolves. These things basically prey on already dead animals, or even vultures and eagles. But for some reason, these mutilated animals are not even touched by even an insect. It's just left out there for 3 months straight up, and none of these species are even going close to this animal. So that just makes me wonder what is really going on in our world as of now. Like there is some crazy stuff, crazy experiments going on, and I suspect that the government of the United States could be behind it, or maybe this could be the works of the aliens. Now, they even made a video game about this whole stuff, where you're going to be one of these ranch owners who's going to like investigate all of these alien appearances. And it's basically a horror game called Grey Hill Incident. And apparently in this game, the same mutilation process happens. And you are apparently one of those guys who needs to go down there and do your investigation. So let's just go ahead and take a look at what this game basically looks like. It's actually a pretty good game, honestly. Look at this stuff.
Lunatics and conspiracy theorists claim to have seen a UFO. The minority tries to convince other people that the small green aliens are real.
They're lying.
The government.
That is not a weather balloon. Ryan, this is an absolute invasion. Do you know what that means? They'll abduct everyone in the village. Humans, animals, and every little insect. They'll take samples of everything, making experiments on everyone. This is an extraterrestrial investigation. This can't be our end. I don't want to end up as an alien experiment victim. We can't talk about it to the police. They'll just lock us up in a psych ward.
Several animals have already disappeared.
The neighborhood watch takes care of it.
I mean, you see, this is like the crazy stuff that's actually going on in the world right now. Like, people are noticing all of this UFO up on their ranch. And just imagine, cows go missing.
Something in me. Some kind of metal, baby.
Who are you? In which part?
Look at that stuff. Look at that. That's what I was talking about. We've got like this cattle mutilation thing.
Rachel! Good luck, Ryan.
I think I even played this game, and there was like a very similar situation that kind of happened in this game as well, where there were these cattle that kind of just got abducted. And if you go all the way close to these cattle, you'll actually see that they are completely mutilated, blood sucked out of their bodies. And I think the whole game is like made out of the situation that's been going on in the world. And it's just crazy, man. I think if you want to experience all of this stuff in a video game, I think.
All right, so get this. We're diving into cattle mutilations today.
Oh, wow.
You know those bizarre livestock deaths?
Yeah.
With these eerie similarities to cases back in the 70s?
Right.
We're talking organs surgically removed, blood drained, and hold on.
Okay.
There are even UFO sightings tied to some of these recent cases.
Disturbing stuff, for sure.
Right.
I've been looking into these unusual occurrences.
Yeah.
And while the details are undeniably creepy,
oh, yeah.
it's crucial we analyze them with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking.
Definitely. Let's unpack this YouTube video.
Okay.
That landed on our desk.
All right.
It dives into some pretty specific mutilations. Eyes, ears, tongues removed, blood completely drained.
Wow.
And get this, no signs of struggle from the animals.
Really?
And even weirder predators aren't scavenging the carcasses.
That's a common thread in these reports.
Yeah.
Definitely something that sparks all sorts of theories.
Right.
What's fascinating is that while the video focuses on recent events, reports of cattle mutilations actually go back to the 1950s.
Wow.
And some argue even earlier.
Really?
And it's not just an American thing either.
Interesting.
We've seen similar reports from all corners of the globe.
Wow.
That historical context is important to keep in mind as we try to understand what's going on.
This video also highlights some chilling anecdotes from ranchers.
All right.
Who claim to have seen strange orange lights.
Orange lights.
Around the time their cattle were found mutilated.
Interesting.
One rancher even states emphatically
it
wasn't from this planet.
It's easy to get caught up in those kinds of statements,
Right.
especially with the added mystery of potential UFO sightings.
Yeah.
The video explores several theories,
Okay.
including alien abduction, secret government experiments, and even satanic cults.
Wow.
It even mentions the FBI's investigation in the 70s.
Oh, really?
Which, unsurprisingly, came up empty.
Figures.
Let's take a closer look at these theories. Starting with the alien abduction angle,
All right.
the link between UFOs and cattle mutilations is definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
But like most things related to UFOs, concrete evidence is hard to come by.
So could it be the government then? I mean, secret experiments, cover-ups?
Yeah.
It's not like that's never happened before.
That's true, and it's not entirely outside the realm of possibility.
Right.
But if we consider this theory seriously,
Yeah.
we need to ask some tough questions.
Okay.
What would their motivation be?
Yeah.
What kind of testing requires these incredibly bizarre procedures? And could they really keep something like this under wraps for so long?
Then there's the satanic cult theory.
Yeah.
Ritualistic killings, dark symbolism. Pretty disturbing stuff.
The ritualistic nature of the mutilations is definitely what draws people to this theory.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the evidence.
Right.
Or rather, the lack thereof. Are there signs of cult activity in these areas?
Yeah, good point.
Symbols or markings that point to rituals? It's important to distinguish genuine concern from speculation that may not be grounded in reality.
The video makes a point of mentioning that insects and parasites don't touch the carcasses.
Oh, really?
Almost as if they're avoiding them. Pretty creepy, right?
It's a strange detail, but decomposition is a complex process.
Yeah.
Many factors affect how a carcass decomposes.
Right.
Environmental conditions, bacteria, even the animal's cause of death. It's possible these factors are deterring scavengers, not some paranormal force.
The video shifts focus to a recent spike in cases, specifically in Oregon.
All right.
It describes one case in detail, a rancher finding his bull mutilated with all the classic signs. And of course, he claims he saw strange lights in the sky beforehand.
That brings up an important point about media coverage. When these stories get a lot of attention, it can lead to an increase in reported sightings or incidents. People tend to interpret ambiguous events through the lens of what they've been hearing about.
That's true.
It's not necessarily that there are suddenly more cattle mutilations, but rather that people are more aware of them.
Yeah.
This is something for you to consider as you process this information.
I see what you mean.
It creates a sort of feedback loop.
Right.
Increased media attention leads to heightened public awareness, which can then lead to more reports.
Yeah.
Even if those reports are based on misinterpretations or even hoaxes.
And speaking of hoaxes, the video does bring up the possibility that some of these mutilations are faked.
Right.
Maybe for attention or even insurance fraud. It even mentions a video game.
Really?
Where you investigate cattle mutilation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's called Gray Hill Incident.
Gray Hill Incident.
Yeah.
The game Gray Hill Incident is a great example of how these events become part of pop culture while it's a fictionalized take. It reflects the fascination and fear that surrounds this phenomenon.
It's not just games either.
Okay.
The video mentions that back in the 70s, the buzz around cattle mutilations was so intense that newspapers were running headlines like,
"Oh, wow.
Devil worship, satanic cult, blamed in cattle mutilations."
That highlights the power of narratives,
Right.
especially when we're dealing with the unknown.
Yeah.
It's human nature to try and make sense of things that frighten or confuse us.
Yeah.
And sometimes those explanations, even if they lack evidence, can take on a life of their own.
So where do we go from here? How do we even begin to untangle this mystery?
It's the question, isn't it?
Right.
We have these strange occurrences, a collection of compelling but often contradictory theories, and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
It's true.
It's tempting to jump to conclusions, to latch onto the most sensational explanation.
Yeah.
But that's not how we get to the truth.
It's definitely easy to get caught up in the intrigue and the what-ifs.
Which is why it's crucial to approach these topics with a balance of curiosity and skepticism.
Right.
We should be open to the possibility of the extraordinary, but also demand extraordinary evidence to support those claims.
How do we reconcile the fact that there's still no definitive explanation for these cattle mutilations?
The absence of an explanation doesn't automatically prove the existence of something paranormal or extraterrestrial. It simply means we haven't uncovered the answer yet.
What about the ranchers who swear they saw something strange? The surgical precision of the mutilations.
Yeah.
That has to mean something.
Of course, eyewitness accounts and physical evidence are important pieces of the puzzle, but we also have to be aware of the limitations of human perception and memory.
Right.
People can misinterpret what they see, especially in low-light conditions.
Yeah.
Or when they're feeling anxious or frightened.
Our brains are always trying to make sense of the world around us.
Exactly.
Even if it means filling in the blanks with assumptions.
Especially when it comes to something as emotionally charged as cattle mutilations.
Yeah.
Those biases can be even more pronounced.
So if we can't rely solely on eyewitness accounts, what about the physical evidence?
Yeah.
The mutilations themselves?
The precision of the cuts is often cited as evidence of something beyond human capabilities. But nature itself can be incredibly precise.
Interesting.
Certain predators, for example, can dissect prey with remarkable accuracy.
Wow.
Natural processes like decay can also create unusual patterns that might appear deliberate to an untrained eye.
So what looks like the work of a scalpel
could
actually be the result of natural processes.
It's a possibility that needs to be considered. We can't rule out any explanation without thorough investigation and analysis.
Yeah, that's true.
The complete draining of blood is one of the most perplexing aspects of these cases. It's not something you typically see with natural predators or scavengers.
Are there any other natural explanations?
There could be factors at play that we haven't fully considered.
Like what?
Certain insects or bacteria could consume blood very quickly, leaving behind a carcass that appears drained.
We need to be careful not to jump to conclusions.
Absolutely.
Based on limited information.
We need to embrace the scientific method. Observation, hypothesis, experimentation, analysis. That's how we separate fact from fiction. Evidence from speculation. This process will help you reach a more informed conclusion.
Where does that leave us with the alien abduction theory? Is there anything to it?
It's tempting to dismiss it outright, especially given the lack of concrete evidence, but we can't completely ignore the numerous reports of UFO sightings. In connection with these cattle mutilations.
It's like every time you think you've got a handle on things, another strange detail pops up.
That's the allure of the unknown.
Yeah.
It keeps us guessing.
Right.
Keeps us searching for answers.
What about the government experiment theory? Is it possible that some shadowy agency is behind these mutilations?
Governments have been known to conduct secret experiments, especially when it comes to things like biological warfare or advanced weaponry.
But why cattle?
Yeah.
What could they possibly be gaining from mutilating livestock?
If we were to entertain this theory, we'd have to come up with a plausible motive.
Right.
Perhaps they're testing a biological agent or studying the effects of certain technologies on living organisms.
Wouldn't there be evidence left behind? Lab equipment, tire tracks, something?
If they're skilled enough to pull off these mutilations without leaving a trace, they're probably also skilled enough to cover their tracks.
That's a chilling thought. The idea that something like this could be happening right under our noses.
It's a reminder that there are still many mysteries in this world. Many things we don't fully understand.
If it's not aliens and it's not the government, what's left? Satanic cults? That sounds like something out of a bad horror movie.
While the idea of ritualistic killings might be frightening, it's important to remember that satanic cults are often the subject of sensationalized media coverage and urban legends.
So we should dismiss that theory altogether.
Not necessarily. It's important to keep an open mind. But we also need to be critical of the information we're given. We shouldn't jump to conclusions based on fear or speculation.
If we're not going to jump to conclusions, what's the best way to approach these cases?
We need to focus on the facts. We need to examine the evidence carefully. Consider all possible explanations. And avoid making assumptions or drawing conclusions based on incomplete information.
What can ranchers and farmers who are finding their livestock mutilated do?
They should report these incidents to the authorities and cooperate with any investigations. They should also document everything thoroughly, taking photographs, videos, anything that might help shed light on what happened.
And what about the rest of us? What can we do to help get to the bottom of this mystery?
Stay informed.
Okay.
Educate ourselves about these events and engage in thoughtful and respectful discussions.
Right.
We need to avoid spreading misinformation or perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
It's easy to get caught up in the sensationalism.
It is.
But we need to approach these topics with empathy.
Yeah.
And a desire to understand.
These events are not just fodder for entertainment.
Right.
They represent a real and unsettling phenomenon that deserves our attention and investigation.
We've covered a lot of ground. The history of cattle mutilations, the various theories, the role of media, the importance of critical thinking.
Right.
I'm still left wondering, why is this happening? What's the point?
That's the ultimate question.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's one we may never have a definitive answer to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should stop asking it.
I suppose it's the not knowing that makes it so intriguing.
It is.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
And sometimes those missing pieces are what make a puzzle so captivating.
Right.
It's the mystery that keeps us engaged and drives us to search for answers.
Where do we go from here? What can our listeners do if they want to learn more about cattle mutilations?
There are many resources available online and in libraries.
Okay.
I always recommend starting with reputable sources, such as scientific journals, investigative reports, and historical archives. It's also important to be aware of the biases and agendas of different sources.
What if someone thinks they've witnessed something strange? Like a UFO or a cattle mutilation?
The most important thing is to document everything carefully. Take photos and videos. Write down detailed notes about what you saw, where you saw it, and when. Report the incident to the authorities. And to any relevant organizations, such as UFO research groups or animal welfare agencies.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Curiosity is the engine of discovery.
It seems like we've covered just about everything on cattle mutilations.
I think so.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
It's important to remember that we're all part of this ongoing investigation. Every piece of information, every observation, every question brings us closer to understanding this complex and unsettling phenomenon.
So our listeners are basically like citizen scientists contributing to the search for truth.
And who knows? Maybe one of our listeners holds the key to unlocking this mystery.
That's a great thought.
It is.
So for all you deep divers out there, keep your eyes on the skies. Your mind's open and your camera's ready.
Right.
You never know what you might discover.
The truth is out there somewhere.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into cattle mutilations.
Of course.
We'll be back next week with another intriguing topic.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, stay curious.